The day I lost my job at Morris and Associates, my sister Amanda called to mock me. It wasn't surprising. She'd spent the last 15 years of our lives measuring her success against what she saw as my failures. Seriously, Thomas? Fired again? Her voice dripped with familiar contempt. What is this, the third time in 2 years? I held my phone away from my ear, staring out the window of my penthouse office in downtown Manhattan. 48 floors up, the city sprawled beneath me like a glittering chessboard. Actually, Amanda, I resigned. She laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. Right, because people totally resign from 6-figure consulting jobs in this economy. God, you're pathetic. You can't even admit when you failed. If only she knew. The job at Morris and Associates had been a convenient cover, nothing more. A way to keep my family thinking I was just another corporate drone while I built something far bigger in the shadows. Whatever helps you sleep at night, I replied mildly, watching my reflection in the tinted glass. At 34, I looked younger than my years in my tailored charcoal suit. No one would guess I controlled a multi-billion-dollar investment empire. That was exactly how I wanted it. Well, don't expect any sympathy at my engagement party next month, Amanda continued. I won't have you embarrassing me in front of Jonathan's family. They're actually successful, unlike some people. Ah, yes, Jonathan Williams, my sister's fiancé and rising star at Peterson Global Investments. The irony almost made me laugh. I wouldn't dream of embarrassing you, I said softly. Good, and dress properly for once. No more of your discount store suits. Jonathan's father is bringing the CEO of Peterson Global. Try not to look like the family failure. I glanced down at my Tom Ford suit that cost more than Amanda's monthly salary. I'll do my best. After she hung up, I sat in silence for a long moment, thinking about the path that had led me here. 15 years of carefully crafted misdirection. Letting my family believe I was struggling while I built an empire in secret. It started in college, when I developed an algorithm for predicting market trends. While Amanda was partying her way through business school, I was quietly raising capital, making connections, building something extraordinary. By 25, I had my first billion. By 30, I had acquired Peterson Global Investments through a series of shell companies and holding firms. Not even the board knew who really owned the company. They just knew their mysterious chairman by his results. I kept working regular jobs as cover, letting my family think I was barely getting by. It was easier that way. No expectations, no demands. No one trying to leverage connections or ask for favors. But now, watching the sun set over Manhattan from my private office, I wondered if it was time for the truth to come out. Amanda's engagement party would be the perfect stage. Jonathan Williams, her beloved fiancé, reported directly to me, though he'd never met the reclusive Chairman Peterson in person. My phone buzzed. Speaking of Jonathan, "Sir," he said nervously when I answered. "I just found out. My fiancée. She's your sister?" "Indeed she is, Jonathan." I allowed myself a small smile. "Quite a coincidence, isn't it?" "I had no idea, sir. She talks about you, but she doesn't seem to know." "That's because she doesn't know. None of my family does. And I prefer to keep it that way, at least until the engagement party." "Of course, sir. But what should I do when I see you there?" I thought about Amanda's years of mockery, her constant need to prove her superiority. Just act naturally, Jonathan. I'm sure it will be quite an interesting evening. After hanging up, I walked to the windows again. Below, the city lights were blinking to life one by one. like the pieces of an elaborate game moving into position. In the coming weeks, I watched from afar as Amanda planned her elaborate engagement party. Our parents called regularly to update me on the details, their voices tight with familiar disappointment when they asked about my job situation. "You know, your sister's fiancé is very successful," Mom said during one call. "Maybe he could help you find something stable." I get back a laugh. If they only knew that Jonathan's continued employment depended entirely on my goodwill. "I'll keep that in mind," I said neutrally. The morning of the engagement party dawned clear and crisp. I stood in my closet, considering my options before selecting a bespoke brownie suit in midnight blue. Might as well look the part when the truth came out. As I adjusted my Patek Philippe watch, worth more than Amanda's car, I thought about how this evening would change everything. Part of me would miss the simplicity of anonymity. But watching my sister's carefully constructed illusions shatter would be worth it. I arrived at the venue, an exclusive Manhattan restaurant, exactly on time. Amanda was holding court near the entrance, resplendent in a designer dress, Jonathan nervously at her side. "Oh, look who actually showed up," she announced as I approached. "And wearing something from Men's Warehouse. How appropriate." Several of her friends tittered. Jonathan looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. "Congratulations, Amanda," I said calmly. "Jonathan?" I nodded to my employee, who could barely meet my eyes. "Still unemployed." She pressed, clearly eager to show off my failures to her new social circle. I heard Morris and associates finally got tired of carrying dead weight. I smiled, noting the growing crowd of listeners. Among them, I spotted several Peterson global executives who knew exactly who I was, their faces masks of fascination and horror as they watched the scene unfold. "Something like that," I agreed mildly. "Poor Thomas can't even keep a job," Amanda declared to her audience with a theatrical sigh. "Thank God Jonathan has actual business sense. Not everyone can be a success like him." That's when it happened. One of the Peterson Global board members approached, eager to greet what he thought was his chairman. Jonathan saw him coming and panic flashed across his face. "Chairman Peterson," he blurted out. "I had no idea you were." The champagne glass slipped from Amanda's hand, shattering on the marble floor. The room fell silent. I smiled. The game was about to begin. The silence that followed felt eternal. I could almost hear the gears turning in Amanda's head as she tried to process what she just heard. Around us, the party guests had frozen in place, champagne glasses suspended mid-sip, conversations dying mid-word. "Sheesh, Chairman," Amanda stammered, her perfectly made-up face draining of color. "What is he talking about, Jonathan?" Jonathan looked like a man caught between two freight trains. His eyes darted between me and his fiancée, sweat beading on his forehead. "Amanda, I can explain." "Actually," I said quietly, "I think I should do the explaining." I turned to address the room, noting the mix of shocked faces and knowing smiles from my executives. "For those who don't know me, I'm Thomas Peterson, chairman and majority owner of Peterson Global Investments." The whispers started immediately. I saw my parents in the corner, my father's mouth hanging open, my mother gripping his arms so tightly her knuckles were white. "That's impossible," Amanda snapped, but her voice trembled. "You're unemployed. You just got fired from Morris and Associates." "Resigned?" "Actually," I corrected her. "It was one of several cover jobs I've held over the years. Keeps things interesting." I smiled at Jonathan. "You can relax now, by the way. I don't plan to fire you just because you're marrying my sister." Jonathan sagged with visible relief. Amanda's head whipped between us, her designer earrings swinging wildly. Fire him. You can't fire him. You're lying. This is just another one of your pathetic attempts to. Ms. Peterson. A distinguished older man stepped forward. Richard Blackwood, head of our board of directors. I can assure you your brother is telling the truth. He's been our chairman for the past 5 years, though this is the first time many of us have met him in person. I watched the realization settle over my sister's face like an approaching storm. 15 years of smugness, of mockery, of carefully cultivated superiority, all crumbling in an instant. But, she looked at our parents. Did you know about this? Mom stepped forward, her voice shaking. Thomas, is this true? All this time. Perhaps we should continue this discussion somewhere more private, I suggested, gesturing toward a side room. Jonathan, why don't you handle the guests for a moment? My shell-shocked family followed me into an elegantly appointed private dining room. As soon as the door closed, the questions erupted. How is this possible? Why didn't you tell us? Peterson Global, but that's worth billions. I sat down calmly, adjusting my cuffs. It's actually quite a simple story. Remember that algorithm I developed in college? The one you said was a waste of time, Amanda? She flinched. I continued. It worked. Better than anyone could have imagined. I used it to start trading, built up capital, made some key investments. By 25, I had my first billion. Billion? My father choked. Currently, my personal net worth is just over 12 billion. I said quietly. Peterson Global manages assets of approximately 180 billion. My mother sank into a chair. Amanda remained standing, her engagement ring glinting as her hands twisted together. But why the fake jobs? Why let us think you were struggling? I leaned back, studying my sister. Do you remember what you said when I tried to show you my early market predictions? Called it cute, that I thought I could compete with real business people. She flushed. That was years ago. 15 years, to be exact. The same day, I decided to build everything in secret. No pressure, no expectations. No family members asking for favors or trying to leverage connections. Just pure merit. We wouldn't have. My father started. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Like you didn't use Amanda's connections to try to get contracts for your consulting firm. Like Mom didn't ask Amanda to help cousin Peter get an interview at her company. They had the grace to look embarrassed. But all those times we tried to help you, my mother said softly. The job referrals, the career advice, the constant criticism, I added. The comparisons to Amanda's success, the jokes at family gatherings. I kept my voice level, but years of suppressed feelings were rising to the surface. Amanda sank into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. Oh God, she whispered. All those things I said to you, about being a failure, about not measuring up. While I was signing your fiancé's paychecks, I finished for her. Ironic, isn't it? A knock at the door interrupted us. Jonathan poked his head in, looking uncertain. Sir, I mean Thomas, some of the board members are asking. Of course, I stood up. We should rejoin the party. I believe there's an engagement to celebrate. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Amanda? That discount store suit you mocked earlier? It's brownie. Costs more than your car. The rest of the evening was a blur of revelations and reactions. I watched as my sister struggled to adjust her worldview, as my parents grappled with their new reality. The Peterson global executives who'd long known me only as a voice on the phone or a signature on documents now clustered around, eager to finally meet their mysterious chairman. Later, as the party was winding down, Amanda approached me at the bar. Her makeup was slightly smeared, her confident facade cracked. "Why now?" she asked quietly. "Why reveal everything at my engagement party?" I sipped my scotch, considering, because it was time, because I'm tired of living a double life, and because I looked at her directly. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come at our moments of greatest pride. She flinched, but nodded slowly. I deserve that. All these years, I've been so superior, condescending, cruel. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm sorry, Thomas. I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I'm truly sorry." I studied my sister, seeing for the first time in years the girl who used to be my best friend before success and rivalry drove us apart. "The question is, Amanda, what happens now?" She looked at me uncertainly. "What do you mean?" "Now that the truth is out, now that you know your failure brother is actually one of the most powerful men in global finance, now that your entire perception of our relationship has been turned upside down, what happens next?" Her answer would determine a lot about our future. I waited, watching emotions play across her face as she grappled with 15 years of shattered assumptions and the dawning reality of our new dynamic. The world I'd built in secret was now fully exposed. The carefully maintained walls between my two lives had crumbled. As I waited for my sister's response, I wondered if revealing the truth would heal our family's wounds or only deepen them. Either way, there was no going back now. The weeks following the engagement party were a study in chaos theory, how one revelation could spiral out into countless unforeseen consequences. The story of the mysterious Chairman Peterson revealing himself at his sister's engagement party leaked to the financial press within days. Our family's photo appeared in the Wall Street Journal, my sister's shocked face immortalized for the business world to see. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from family members who'd suddenly remembered how close we used to be. Distant cousins pitched business ideas. Old friends from high school resurfaced with investment opportunities. Even my third-grade teacher somehow got my number, wondering if I remembered her special influence on my success. But it was the changing dynamic with my immediate family that proved most fascinating. My father, ever the pragmatist, switched from disappointment to pride so quickly it gave me whiplash. "I always knew you had potential, son," he said over lunch at his favorite diner, the same one where he'd lectured me about financial responsibility just months earlier. It was just a matter of time. I stirred my coffee, remembering his very different words from Christmas. "Really?" "Because I distinctly remember you calling my career a testament to wasted education last December." He had the grace to look embarrassed. "I was wrong, obviously very wrong. But you have to understand, seeing you bounce from job to job, never seeming to settle. Those jobs were covers to Dad, carefully chosen positions that wouldn't draw attention while I built something bigger. Every failure was calculated." "But why?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. "Why hide your success from us, from your family?" I looked at him steadily, because I wanted to succeed or fail on my own merits. No family connections, no expectations, no pressure, just me, my ideas, and the market. "And no trust in your family to handle the truth," he added quietly. "Can you blame me?" I gestured around the diner. "Look how everyone's acting now that they know. Even you, Dad. Would you be sitting here, proud of my choices, if I was still just a mid-level consultant getting fired every few years. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. My mother took a different approach. She showed up at my office, my real office, unannounced one afternoon, somehow talking her way past 3 layers of security. "This is where you've been all along?" she asked, taking in the panoramic view of Manhattan. "While we thought you were struggling." "Mom." "No, let me finish." She turned from the windows, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Do you know how many nights I lay awake worrying about you? Wondering if you'd ever find your path, if you'd ever be okay." "I was more than okay," I said softly. "Yes, you were building an empire, in secret, while letting your mother think you were barely getting by." Her voice cracked. "Was it worth it? Was proving your point worth all the pain you caused?" That hit home. I'd spent so many years focused on maintaining my cover, on building something independently, that I'd never fully considered the emotional cost to others, especially to her. "I'm sorry," I said finally. "Not for building this my way, but for hurting you. That was never my intention." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I suppose I understand. After how we compared you to Amanda all those years, how we pushed and criticized, you wanted to prove yourself without our interference. Something like that. Well," she straightened her shoulders, "I hope you've proved whatever you needed to prove, because I expect to see my son at family dinners from now on. Your real self, not some carefully constructed facade." I smiled. "Yes, Mom." But it was Amanda who surprised me most. A week after the party, she asked to meet at a small coffee shop, not the kind of upscale venue she usually preferred. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said, staring into her untouched latte, "about how I treated you, about why I felt the need to constantly remind me of your success and my apparent failure." She winced. "Yes, that." She took a deep breath. "I think I was scared. That wasn't what I expected." "Scared? Of what?" "Of not being enough. Of not living up to expectations. Mom and Dad always pushed us to be successful, and somewhere along the way, I decided that meant I had to be better than you. Had to prove myself by comparison." She laughed bitterly. "And all this time, you were so far ahead of me, I couldn't even see it." "Success isn't a competition, Amanda," says the secret billionaire, she shot back, but there was no malice in it. "God, do you know how stupid I feel? All those times I mocked your career, your clothes, your life. You could have bought and sold my company 100 times over. That was never the point." "Then what was the point, Thomas? Help me understand." I considered carefully. "Freedom," I said finally. "The freedom to succeed or fail on my own terms. To build something without family pressure or expectations. To know that every step forward was because of my own efforts, not our name or connections." "And what about now? Now that everyone knows?" "Now," I smiled slightly, "now I do whatever I want, starting with fixing some things I've been neglecting." The next month proved transformative. I established a family foundation, not to hand out money, but to help fund entrepreneurial ventures within the family, properly vetted ones with solid business plans. Mom joined the board, proving surprisingly astute at evaluating proposals. Dad's consulting firm suddenly found itself with several major contracts, though I made sure he never knew they came through my connections. He didn't need to know. The quality of his work spoke for itself, once given the opportunity. As for Amanda and Jonathan, their wedding plans shifted from merely expensive to genuinely meaningful. Amanda insisted on scaling back the extravagance, focusing instead on creating something more personal. "I've had enough of showing off," she told me. "Time to focus on what really matters." Jonathan proved himself worthy of both his position and my sister, throwing himself into new projects with renewed confidence now that he no longer had to navigate the complex waters of our family secret. The press eventually moved on to newer stories. The flood of long-lost relatives slowed to a trickle. Life found a new normal, though not the one I'd maintained for so many years. 6 months after the engagement party, we had our first real family dinner in years. No pretense, no hidden agendas, no carefully maintained facades. Just family, finally seeing each other clearly. "You know," Amanda said as we lingered over dessert, "I never did thank you properly." "For what?" "For teaching me the most expensive lesson of my life." She smiled. "Never judge someone's worth by the suit they're wearing, even if it looks like it's from Men's Warehouse." I laughed, especially then. Later that night, standing in my office overlooking the city, I thought about the path that had led here. The years of secrecy, the careful misdirection, the calculated failures, all to build something truly my own. Had it been worth it? The lying, the hidden successes, the pain it caused my family? Looking at where we were now, Mom and Dad proud without being overbearing, Amanda humbled but happier, our family bond stronger for having been tested, I thought maybe it had. Sometimes the hardest lessons come wrapped in the most expensive packages. Sometimes success isn't about proving your worth to others, but about proving it to yourself. And sometimes, just sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's growth. I picked up my phone and texted Amanda, "Dinner next week? My treat." Her response came quickly. "Only if you wear something from Men's Warehouse, for old time's sake." I smiled. Some things had changed completely, while others had just changed form. But this time, we were all in on the joke. And that made all the difference.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I'm 27 years old. After finishing school, I got a job in a doctor's office. It was busy, but I liked it. Then I stopped working when I got married to John. He wanted me to focus on our home. He asked me to take care of his mom. He really wanted me to do it. "Please, I'm begging you," he said. "Okay, I'll try my best," I replied. I'm not someone who sticks to just one job. So when John asked me to take care of his mom, I agreed. I met John through a friend, and we got married after dating for a year. John had already lost his dad to sickness, so he was living with his mom. "Taking care of my mom will mean a lot to me. She's been feeling lonely," John said. "I'm worried about her being by herself." "I understand. We can't leave her alone," I replied. I learned that his mom got sick soon after his dad died. Since then, she hadn't been well, and John did most of the chores. When I met her, she was really nice to me. "I'll let John handle the things outside, and I'd like you to take care of the house," she said kindly. "Sure, mother-in-law. I'm eager to help out," I replied. I didn't have any issues with my mother-in-law. She was sick and couldn't move much. I had a lot of control over things. But the problem was with John. After we got married, he started to keep his distance. "Hey, how about we go for a drive on our next day off? Your mom seems to be okay, and I think it would be nice," I suggested. "Sorry, I'm really tired. I just want to rest," he replied. "Oh, okay. I understand," I said. John started acting upset about how we were getting along. At first, I thought it was because he was busy with work, so I didn't worry too much. But as time passed, he avoided me even more. Even our intimate moments together were affected. Sometimes, even when I thought everything was right, he didn't want to. "Please, let's try to work together. I really want to have a baby soon," I begged. "I know how you feel. I want that too, but sorry, not today," he replied. Turning 30 soon, I felt a bit rushed. My mother-in-law also wanted a grandchild and kept reminding us about it. It was tough not being able to fulfill her wish. Then, sadly, my mother-in-law passed away before we could have a grandchild. After that, John became even colder toward me. "Hi, welcome home. I made your favorite cream stew for dinner," I said. "John? Hey John, are you listening? Oh, do you want to take your bath first?" "Okay, I'll wait for you," I said, trying to talk to him. John had become really quiet at home. No matter how much I tried to talk to him, he just ignored me. I thought maybe he was still sad about losing his mom. I figured he'd get better with time. So I decided to support him as best as I could, being his wife. But no matter how much time passed, he still didn't seem interested in me. "John, how are you feeling lately? Are you sleeping okay? I want to talk about something important about having a baby. I'm thinking of getting a test to check our fertility." "What do you think?" I asked, trying to start a conversation. "Hey John," I tried again. I tried to talk about his health, his feelings, our plans for a baby, and our future. But every time, it seemed like he wasn't interested. "John, please say something. Have I done something to upset you? If there's anything bothering you, or if you want me to change something, please tell me," I begged. Despite my heartfelt plea, John didn't listen. He kept ignoring me for a whole month. My husband's cold behavior was baffling. Feeling desperate, I turned to my old friend Claire for advice. Claire works at a cosmetics company. She's great at her job and has lots of friends. Whenever I have problems with studies, love, or anything personal, I always ask Claire for advice, I explained. Whenever I shared my troubles with her, Claire listened carefully. This isn't normal. A couple in their third year of marriage, living together, and the husband ignoring the wife. "That's not right. You haven't done anything wrong, have you, Jessica?" she asked. "No, I haven't. That's why I don't understand why he's acting this way," I replied, feeling really upset. Claire promised to help me figure it out. Little did I know, Claire had picked up on something. "It's his fault. If you haven't done anything wrong, Jessica, he must be hiding something. Let's find out. Eavesdropping, surveillance, following him. We'll use all the methods we can," she suggested. "Is it really okay to do that?" I asked nervously. "Absolutely. It's worse to ignore your spouse and keep secrets in a marriage," she assured me. Following Claire's advice, I secretly installed small eavesdropping devices and cameras in our home. I felt guilty, but I was determined to uncover his secret. But despite all this, John continued to ignore me. "John, hey, are you listening?" I tried to talk to him, but it didn't work. A few days later, my phone rang. It was John calling. "Hello," I answered. "Where have you been? What's going on, leaving the house for a week?" he demanded. "Why don't you ask yourself why I did this? What are you talking about? Be clear, I don't get it," I replied, feeling angry that he dared to question me after ignoring me for so long. Prompted by Claire to investigate John, I uncovered a shocking truth. Filled with rage at what I had discovered, I left our home and stayed at Claire's house. It was on the 7th day of staying there that I finally received a call from John. "If you have something to tell me, then say it to my face," he suggested. "Fine, but promise you won't ignore me," I replied firmly, ready to confront him. The anger I felt when I found out the truth still burned inside me. His betrayal weighed heavily on me. John needed to face the consequences of his actions. I arranged a meeting and quickly ended the call before he could respond. Later, I invited John to a local cafe. He must have taken time off work because he arrived in a business suit. I didn't waste any time and laid out the evidence I had gathered on the table. "What's this?" "Jessica, stop it. Don't show me these things," he protested. "If you don't like it, why don't you pick them up yourself? It doesn't matter, right? I can print out as many as I want," I retorted. "When were these photos taken?" he asked, trying to change the subject. On the table were photos that incriminated John, pictures of him with his mistress, walking downtown with their arms around each other, entering a hotel together. The woman in all the photos was the same person. Her name was Mary, as I found out during my investigation. I also have audio recordings. "Do you want to listen to them now?" I asked. "Audio recordings," he said, shocked. I tapped the screen on my smartphone, and instantly, a conversation between John and Mary began playing. "Hey John, when is our housemate planning to leave?" Mary asked. She'll be gone soon. She's getting fed up and might suggest a divorce. I wish she would just confront us, saying, "Stop ignoring me." That would be easier for me, John replied, his tone cold and calculated. That's quite a plan you've got there, Mary remarked. Well, that's just typical of you, John, she added. When I stopped the audio, John seemed frustrated, like he suspected we were listening in. I couldn't help but wonder what kind of expression John wore when facing his own wife. Caught red-handed cheating, he seemed like he was about to explode with anger at any moment. John, you needed someone to take care of your mother, right? That's why you married me. But now that your mother has passed away, I'm no longer needed. Your real intention was always Mary, wasn't it? But Mary had no interest in taking care of her mother-in-law. So you chose me, someone who was okay with caregiving. It seems like anyone who could handle this difficult duty would do. After your mother's passing, the caregiver role was no longer needed. The plan was to make life miserable and push for a divorce. That's such a petty, cruel, and unfair way to act. It's disrespecting the vows of marriage. The only good thing is that we don't have any children, I accused. What about children? You didn't you? You never wanted them because you knew it would lead to us splitting up, I added. John sighed heavily. Most of what you're saying is true. I married you with the intention of leaving you from the beginning. You're right, I'm terrible. What do you think my life is? Fine, but I have something else to discuss first, I replied cryptically. Someone else. You can't mean. Before John could finish, two women arrived, apologizing for keeping us waiting. What's going on, John? So you're the housemaid? One of the women asked, clearly shocked. I'm not a housemaid. I'm his wife, at least for now. Thank you, Claire, I said. You're welcome. Wait, what? I thought we were going shopping for new cosmetics to review, Claire said, surprising both John and his mistress. I'm sorry, that was a lie. What I was actually doing was looking for my best friend's husband's mistress. That's you, Claire, and you brought Mary here to sit next to John, I explained. I showed Mary the same evidence, the photos of the affair, as before. Her reaction was like that of a child caught doing something wrong. She didn't seem to fully understand the seriousness of the situation. Well, her attitude doesn't change what I need to do. I'm going to demand compensation from both of you, I declared firmly. What? What are you talking about? Why should I have to pay compensation? I haven't done anything wrong. Have I caused you any trouble? Mary protested. Do you really not see it? I found out that Mary herself is married. Doesn't it bother her that her own husband is involved with another woman? Whether she didn't understand or didn't want to, convincing Mary was difficult. Eventually, she slumped onto the table, crying. I wonder if she's thinking about her husband, I pondered, considering telling her about the certified letter I planned to send soon, but decided against it. I'd have to explain what a certified letter was first. While I dealt with Mary, John stayed silent, looking solemn. John, sign these two documents. Here's the divorce agreement and the divorce petition. $30,000 for compensation. Is that too much? I asked. Hey, don't judge the extent of my emotional distress, okay? I replied sharply. At my words, John stayed quiet for the rest of the conversation. All that could be heard in the restaurant afterward was Mary's quiet sobs. Later, my divorce from John went through smoothly. I confirmed that the compensation and asset distribution were transferred to my bank account in one lump sum. With that money, I decided to move into a slightly nicer apartment, a fresh start in life. It was a little luxury to lift my spirits. It turned out that John had to sell his childhood home to pay the compensation. It's sad that after paying what he owed, he was left with almost no money. But it was unavoidable since the $30,000 he gave me wasn't the only thing he had to pay. It seems like John's total expenses will end up being well over $100,000, doesn't it? It looks that way. He's also facing damages claimed from his company, someone explained. Mary, the wife of an executive at one of John's company's important clients, I added. The executive, upon learning about the affair through the certified mail I sent, was reportedly furious. With the evidence I provided, Mary couldn't deny it. Additionally, Mary was assisting John by leaking her husband's company information. This affair and the subsequent unethical behavior caused a major rift between the two companies. John seems to have lost his position. He's not only facing cold treatment from his superiors and colleagues, but also has been fired and slapped with hefty damages, I explained. Poor guy, but he brought it on himself. Do you think he'll be paying off the debt for the rest of his life? Someone asked. Sadly, that's what I think will happen. John's future looks bleak. He's probably struggling to figure out how to handle the overwhelming cost of his affair, I replied. Later on, it seems John struggled to find another job. He eventually gave up on full-time employment and resorted to odd jobs to make ends meet. There are rumors that the managing director was working behind the scenes to sabotage John's job search. However, the truth of this matter is uncertain, and it's unlikely anyone would benefit from trying to confirm it. John, who had also gone through a divorce, got back together with Mary, another divorcee, and they started living together. But it seems their living situation isn't going well. Mary is quite a spender. She splurges money like there's no tomorrow. Despite John's efforts to save money from odd jobs, Mary quickly spends it all on things like cosmetics, makeup bags, and clothes. They can't seem to stop arguing about money, so even though they're no longer cheating on each other, the relationship seems strained, I concluded. I heard this directly from John himself over the phone. He reached out asking for financial help because times were tough. What did you do then? Someone asked me. Of course I refused. I have no obligation to help them. Who would want to help those two? Especially after they used to call me a maid behind my back. Whatever happens to them doesn't matter, I replied firmly. After the divorce, I went back to my job in medical administration, and I'm happily working at my new workplace. I'm so busy that I hardly have time to think, but that's what suits me best now. Sometimes, when I do have free time, I can't help but remember unpleasant things, and it makes me feel down, I explained. The other day, I came face to face with a reminder of those unpleasant things, none other than John himself. It was on my way home from work, on a quiet road at dusk. He called out to me as I was walking home alone. I turned around and was speechless for a moment. His hair and beard were grown out, his skin was tan, his cheeks were hollow, and his clothes were dirty and worn out. I was shocked and disgusted by the sight of John, who looked completely different. I continued. Hey, it's been a while. Is that you, John? Are you okay? Are you able to eat regularly? I found myself asking questions like a concerned guardian. Despite my disdain for him, John's condition looked pitiable even to me. I'm managing, eating something every day, though not 3 meals. And work? Not much luck lately. I spend my days collecting empty cans and old magazines. If I take them to a dealer, they buy them from me by weight, he replied. After chatting for a bit, John hesitantly brought up the main topic. Listen, do you think we could give it another try? He asked. What about Mary? I thought you two were living together, I asked. I broke up with her. She dumped me. Mary's probably gone back to her parents' home by now. I wouldn't be surprised if she arranges a marriage and settles down with someone her parents choose, John replied, his face showing signs of emotional turmoil. It must have been a painful breakup for him, to the point where even talking about it with me was difficult. John's current state is truly pitiful, but I have no hand to offer him, I concluded sadly. After that encounter, I saw John a few times in line at the soup kitchen run by a non-profit organization. He had become so thin, and whenever he noticed me looking, he would awkwardly turn his face away. I definitely don't want to end up like that. Every time I see John, that thought hits me strongly. He's a negative example for me, and this is how my first marriage ended in disaster. But I haven't given up on finding happiness with someone. There's still a long journey ahead of me. I believe that I can still shine from now on. With that in mind, I've decided to start participating in local social events with my friend Claire. Being divorced doesn't mean I should feel defeated. The world is vast, and there must be someone out there who will embrace me gently, I concluded, determined to move forward with hope. I've moved out, so your house is gone. It must be tough without a place to call home, my mother-in-law said happily on the phone. I just responded with a quiet She continued, enjoy your life in your new home. I replied, yes, thank you, and please never come back to my house. After all, you'll be getting a divorce. Then she hung up. I stood at the airport, feeling not angry, but happy. I clenched my fist in a small victory and walked home feeling light. My name is Emma. My husband, David, had to go work abroad soon after we got married, so we had to live apart for a short while. David and I had been dating for 5 years before we got married, and we had lived together too. We trusted each other a lot because of our long relationship. I wasn't worried about David cheating on me. I just hoped he stayed safe while he was away. Our days should have been calm, even though sometimes I felt lonely. But things got complicated when my mother-in-law decided to move into our house. She got divorced when David was young. When she found out David was going overseas, she said, "I'll keep an eye on you, Emma, to make sure you don't cheat." She started living in our house without asking us first. It turns out she was cheated on and left by my father-in-law, who disappeared afterwards. Worried the same thing might happen to David, she decided to watch over me. But her constant spying made life really hard. I felt desperate, so I asked David for help. He kept telling his mom to leave, but she wouldn't listen. "David trusts you too much, Emma. I can tell you'll cheat." She accused me for no reason, giving me a headache every day. No matter what I did, she thought I was being unfaithful. She wouldn't even cook dinner for me. She'd use food from the fridge to make her own meals, never leaving any for me. And she didn't buy groceries herself. She used the ones I bought, leaving me with nothing when I came home. I complained about it, but my mother-in-law didn't seem to care or listen. "I bet you're out having dinner with your boyfriend since you're cheating," she'd say, which made me really upset. Even when I came home late from work and started cooking, she'd make a scene, saying, "You must be cheating if you come home at this hour, leaving your mother-in-law alone." During my busy work times when I often came home late, she'd always accuse me of cheating. It stressed me out so much that I felt sick. "Please, I'm begging you, just leave." "I'm not cheating. I really love David," I told her. David, who was too busy to come back to the US, tried his best to get his mother to leave. But her response was disheartening. "So you want me to leave that badly? You must be cheating after all," she said. At that point, I could only sigh. On my day off, I went out to meet a friend, and once again my mother-in-law accused me of cheating. She was determined to catch me in the act and clumsily tried to follow me. She hid behind lampposts and her house's brick wall, trying to stay out of sight. I just ignored her and went on with my plans. I met up with my friend at a cafe, grumbling quietly so my mother-in-law wouldn't hear. Suddenly, I saw flashes of light. She was taking pictures of me. My friend, Abby, who I've known since our student days, looked suspicious and asked, "What's that?" Abby, being tough, started to get up, saying, "Should I say something to her?" But I quickly convinced her to stay seated. No, please stay, Abby." Abby had a pixie cut and wore street-style clothes, which made her look a bit like a man. I joked that my mother-in-law might have thought she was a guy, which made Abby burst out laughing. Finding the situation amusing, Abby leaned closer to me, pretending to hold my hand to tease my mother-in-law. Each time my mother-in-law took a picture, she seemed thrilled, snapping away while her nostrils flared with excitement. It was so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh along. After witnessing my mother-in-law's silly antics, I felt relieved and went shopping with Abby before we said goodbye. But as expected, my mother-in-law followed me home, hiding behind lampposts and walls just like before. Sometimes I'd play a quick game of red light, green light with her, and she'd scurry off to hide. It was amusing, and I found myself joining in her ridiculous game. I couldn't help but think how foolish she was to believe that I didn't notice her following me. When I got home and started taking off my shoes, she rushed in excitedly. If she was tailing me, she could have at least waited a bit before coming back. I was surprised when she showed me a disposable camera. "Emma, I finally caught proof of your cheating. I'm going to send these to David, so get ready." "Oh, really? Good luck with that," I said casually, which she didn't like. She spent the rest of the time buzzing around me like a nagging child. "Are you okay with this? It's proof of cheating. Your face and his are clear in the photos." But I just calmly kept saying, "That's fine." It was unfortunate that Abby's appearance sometimes led to her being mistaken for a man, but David knew her well from before we got married. So even if my mother-in-law sent a photo of me with Abby to David, he'd probably recognize her as just a friend. Despite enduring my mother-in-law's ridiculous schemes, I suddenly had to go on a business trip overseas. It was a shame I wouldn't get to see David because it was in a different country, but it couldn't be helped. I told my mother-in-law about my trip, although I didn't ask for her opinion. But in her mind, it seemed like a romantic getaway. As I got ready for my trip, my mother-in-law smirked and said, "It'll be a big problem if you come back pregnant from your romantic getaway. David hasn't seen you in a while, so it won't be easy to pretend the baby is his." Her distasteful thoughts made it pointless to argue back. I replied casually, "Yeah, it's just a business trip, not a romantic getaway," and headed off. The trip was really busy, and the days passed by quickly in a blur. When I finally got back to the US, I was exhausted. My boss, who had also been on the trip, seemed tired too and went home. I had planned to grab some duty-free sweets before heading home, so I took a break on a bench. Just then, my phone rang. It was Abby calling, and she had something surprising to tell me. "Hey Emma, welcome back. There's something I need to tell you. Your mother-in-law showed up at the company where I work." "What?" "Abby's family's company isn't the kind of place just anyone visits. Hearing that my mother-in-law went there made me really angry." Abby explained how she handled the situation and asked if she went too far. I replied, "No, I think it was just right." After laughing and ending the call with Abby, I was about to leave when I got another call from my mother-in-law. "Emma, you should be back from your trip now. Did you enjoy your affair trip?" I said, it wasn't an affair trip, and I didn't particularly enjoy it because I went there for work. "Well, I've already sent David the evidence photos." I simply responded with, "Hi C" to my mother-in-law, who seemed pleased with herself. Ignoring my lack of reaction, she just kept on talking. "Actually, I moved, so your house is no longer there. I sold the old house. So you must be struggling without a place to go back to. But hang in there," my mother-in-law cheerfully said. I responded with an uninterested huh as she laughed happily. "Enjoy your life in your new house. Thank you, and please never come back to our house. After all, you're going to be divorced soon." After my mother-in-law hung up, I stood in the airport for a while. But slowly, I felt better. It wasn't anger in my heart, but joy. I did it. I pumped my fist a little and started my journey home with a light step. Of course, I was going back to the house my mother-in-law claimed she had sold. Maybe she had taken out the furniture. Even though a lot of things were missing, I accepted it as a parting gift. I quickly called a locksmith to replace the front door lock, ensuring my mother-in-law couldn't get in even if she tried to return. Then I sprawled out in the living room, basking in the freedom I had finally achieved. Inside the house, I pumped my fist again and shouted, "I did it." The next day, I received a call from my mother-in-law. "What's wrong?" I asked her with a hint of malice. She sounded flustered and trembled as she spoke. "Actually, I thought I sold the house. But it turns out I didn't. It seems I borrowed money without realizing it. Debt collectors are coming, and it's really scary." "That sounds terrifying," I replied, realizing that the company she unknowingly visited, thinking it was Abby's parents, was actually a real estate company on the surface, but secretly involved in loan sharking. According to Abby, they had warned her multiple times that the house couldn't be sold. The house was in David's name, so she couldn't just sell it on her own. After being rejected by all the real estate agencies she approached, she ended up at the company run by Abby's parents. Desperate to sell the house, they gave her a promissory note to sign, without her realizing the true implications. The document obligated her to repay a large debt, with the daunting requirement of $1,000 to be paid every day. She managed to pay off the debt collectors for today, but she didn't have the means to come up with that amount every day from tomorrow onwards. So she came to me in tears, pleading, "Please, Emma, you have to help me. The debt collectors have been pounding at my door since dawn. It's terrifying. I can't sleep well, and I don't have much money. I used the borrowed money to buy a new house, so I don't have any savings left. How about this? Please transfer $10,000 to my account every week until I've paid off the debt." But honestly, do you think there will ever be a day when we can pay off this company's debt? Even if we combine my income with David's, it's impossible to come up with that much money every week. I'm sorry, but your only option is to work hard and earn it yourself. What? Like there's a job out there where I can make $1,000 every day. Well, why not try talking to the company you borrowed money from? Maybe they can help you find a good job. I meant it as a joke, but my confused mother-in-law responded, "Really? Then I'll go and see," and hung up. I sighed to myself, realizing there was no stopping my mother-in-law now. Later, I heard from Abby that my mother-in-law had suddenly shown up at the company and said, "I have no choice but to work because I have no money. Is there a simple and easy job where I can earn more than $1,000 a day?" Abby and her team managed to find my mother-in-law a job, but it wasn't what she expected. The company was one where many employees lived in rundown shacks serving as dormitories. At this company, the workers toiled tirelessly day and night, often doing physically demanding labor. Even elderly individuals were pushed to work relentlessly. My mother-in-law seemed to be working herself to exhaustion. The workplace dormitories were fenced in with barbed wire, resembling a prison, and employees were blindfolded and transported to and from work in vans, leaving them unaware of their location. She'll be free, won't she? She can pay off the debt, if that day ever comes, Abby said with a smile. She's a dear friend of mine, but I can't help feeling a bit frightened for my mother-in-law. Several weeks after my mother-in-law disappeared, David's overseas assignment ended, and he returned home. When I explained what had happened to David, he simply said, "There's nothing we can do about my mom. All we can do is wish her well from a distance." It became clear that David never really got along with his mother. While he tolerated her because she was his mother, it seemed he had run out of patience with her constant suspicions about me, his wife. When I asked David of the supposed evidence photos of my infidelity, he said, "Oh yeah," as if he had forgotten, and handed me a photo from his bag. "That's Abby, right?" I have no idea why my mom would think this is proof of infidelity. I actually had a big argument with her on the phone. I told her I cut ties as she kept suspecting you, Emma, but she wouldn't listen. It really frustrated me, but I thought this was a good picture, so I brought it home. It's true, my mother-in-law might have had a talent for photography. What a shame. The photo she took of Abby and me, with the beautiful scenery in the background, had a certain style, like a page from a photo album. It was amusing how Abby was playfully making a peace sign behind her back. That was just so like her. We really owe Abby a lot. We should visit her properly sometime soon. Just be careful not to sign any documents she might try to give you. I'll never sign anything from Abby. David and I chuckled together. Finally, we were able to live like a newlywed couple. We had no idea what happened to my mother-in-law after that, but she's probably still working hard somewhere in the States. We could have found out where she was by asking Abby, but neither David nor I had any desire to track her down. David and I continued to live happily together, and eventually we welcomed our first child. We're enjoying our blissful days together. Steve said confidently, "I built that house, so it belongs to me. Now you have to leave, even though we're splitting up. I don't think you can manage on your part-time pay." Steve chuckled as he showed her the divorce papers. "My name's Katie. I'm 33 years old. Recently, I got a job working part-time at a nearby supermarket. I married Steve 3 years ago after we met at work and both quit at the same time. I wanted to keep working after we got married, but he wanted me to stay home. So I became a full-time housewife, even though I really miss working. But I kept feeling like I wanted to work outside the house more and more. After a lot of talking, I finally got a part-time job. We want kids, but we haven't been able to have any yet. I really wanted a cat as a pet, but Steve really doesn't like them, so I sadly had to give up on the idea. Steve used to want me to stay home all the time, but he got mad when I started working part-time and started complaining about everything I did. You went to work again today, huh? Lately, it seems like the house is getting messier. Are the clothes all wrinkled in the laundry? You're not keeping up with the housework," Steve criticized. That wasn't true. I had finished cleaning before going to work, and the laundry was perfectly done. "What are you talking about? I'm doing everything just like before. It's obviously clean, can't you see?" I argued. He's complaining about the food again. "Fried chicken, really? Can't you cook something different?" He complained. I didn't make fried chicken that often, and I tried to make different meals every day despite having limited time. "I put effort into making your favorite fried chicken, and I make a variety of dishes," I defended myself. But whenever I tried to speak up, he got even angrier. "Are you saying you're too busy because of your part-time job? You're just pretending to be busy. Don't act like your job is important when it barely pays anything," he scolded. "You're only working because you're selfish. Your earnings were fine to begin with. Make sure you do the housework properly. Don't make excuses about not having time. It's embarrassing to work so hard for such a low wage." Steve always insulted my job with hurtful words. He used to say he wanted me to be a housewife so people wouldn't think we were struggling financially. But he constantly belittled my part-time job, bragging about how he made enough money that we didn't need to worry about expenses. Being constantly insulted for my work with such cruel words was unbearable. Every day, his words made me furious. One day, we decided to go visit Steve's parents' house, where we hadn't been in a while. Even though I had been annoyed with Steve for a long time, I was glad to get out of the house for a change. I didn't know what would happen when we got to his parents' house. After driving for a few hours, we got to Steve's parents' house. His mom, who lived alone, welcomed us with a smile. After dinner, which she cooked, Steve went out to play slot machines. While washing dishes with my mother-in-law, her mood changed. She wasn't as calm as before, and her face looked serious. As I made coffee, wondering what was wrong, we sat on the sofa, and she started talking. Katie, according to Steve, you're working part-time. Why do you need to work when he has a good job? Also, he says you're not keeping up with the housework because you're too busy with your job, she said. I was taken aback by her sudden words. No, that's not true. I'm handling everything just fine, I responded. My mother-in-law acted surprised, saying, Oh, I've heard from Steve about how bad you are at housework. There's no point in lying. He's been dealing with this alone. He's exhausted from work, and it's sad that he has to come home to a messy house. You're not cooking proper meals, are you? Quit that part-time job. Your workplace won't miss you. They can find someone else. Your job is to take care of the house, okay? Focus on the house and support Steve properly from now on. Don't embarrass yourself as Steve's wife. My mother-in-law has traditional beliefs, thinking a wife should stay home. She got married right after school and never worked, always being a full-time housewife. Steve also grew up believing that's how a wife should be. That's why they both don't like the idea of me working outside. But my mother-in-law's words were too harsh. She not only dismissed my job. Those hurtful words really got to me. I was putting in so much effort at my part-time job, and everyone there was supportive and kind. It was a positive atmosphere, and I felt appreciated and relied upon. It broke my heart to hear myself talked about like I was useless, especially when my mother-in-law didn't even know anything about my job. And finding out that Steve had been saying bad things about me behind my back, despite me taking care of our home, was a shock. I was actually working harder than ever to make sure everything was in order, even with my part-time job. I knew Steve's job was tough, so I was doing my best to help out. But hearing him and his mother gossiping about me on the phone was hard to swallow. I didn't want to believe it. After hearing such awful things, I felt really down for a few days. But then, I remembered my father's face. Since my mother passed away, he'd been living alone in our family home. He lived a bit far from me, and I hadn't visited him recently because I'd been busy. I needed to hear his voice, so I called him. Usually he picks up right away, but that day, it rang for a long time. Just as I started to worry, he finally answered. Katie, it's been a while. Are you well? Hearing my father's calm voice, I felt a wave of relief, and tears began to flow. What happened? It took you a long time to pick up the phone. If you're busy, I can call back later, I said. No, I'm sorry. I recently fell down the stairs and hurt my back. I can't move around much now, but don't worry about me. I'll be okay soon. By the way, what's going on? Is everything okay? He replied. I was really surprised. My dad, who used to be so active, had fallen down the stairs and hurt his back. No, I'm okay. Just make sure you take care of yourself and get better soon. I'll come to visit you soon, so wait for me, I assured him. Yeah, I'm okay, he said. But then I thought, he's already considered elderly and injuries might take longer to heal. I had always been reassured by his energy, but suddenly I felt worried. If he keeps using the stairs every day, he might slip again. Plus, the stairs in our old family home are a bit steep, and there are tall steps in the entrance and bathroom. I became really worried about my dad living there and taking care of his back. What if something bad happens and he gets seriously hurt? I couldn't just ignore it. I always thought it would be nice to live closer to him, but now I knew I had to act fast. I decided to build a safer, easier-to-use home for my dad nearby. I had some money from managing apartments that my grandfather left me. Originally, it was meant for my dad, but he put it in my name just in case. He told me to keep it quiet from my husband. I had saved all the rent money until now. I wanted to use that money to build a new house for my dad. I felt really happy thinking about giving him such a great gift, especially since I hadn't been able to do much to help him before. Building the house would cost a lot of money, and I couldn't just keep it a secret. I needed to talk to Steve about it. I was nervous he might not agree and might get upset, but instead he said, I understand. It makes sense to get him a new house, especially considering his age. If you think you can handle it, go for it. Just don't expect me to help if things get tough. He insulted me again, which made me angry, but arguing would only make things worse. So I decided not to argue back this time. It made things simpler for me. I immediately started looking for a good contractor and began the process of building the new house. But it seemed like Steve wasn't happy with the idea of me actually going through with it. He didn't say anything, so I tried not to pay too much attention to it. But he usually wasn't the type to keep quiet. One day, I was shocked when I went to the bank to take out money for groceries. $3,000 was missing from our living expenses, all taken out at once. I couldn't remember spending such a big amount of money. There was only one person who could have done this. It was hard to believe that Steve would take the money without asking, but it was clear that the money was gone. That night, I confronted him. When I went to the bank today, I saw that $3,000 was taken out from our living expenses. Do you know anything about this? I asked. Steve arrogantly replied, I gave it to my mother. You said you were going to build a house, so you must have been saving up somewhere, right? $3,000 isn't a big deal. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why did you give her money? Your mother isn't exactly struggling, is she? And that's our living expenses. It's not fair to give away such a big amount without even talking to me about it, I argued. He snapped back. What do you know about my mother? She said she needed help. What's wrong with a son helping his mother? Plus, that money was earned by me. How I use it is none of your business. If it bothers you, try earning as much as I do with your part-time job. You can't say anything now, can you? Don't ever complain about what I do again. After shouting at me, he stormed out of the room. I always believed Steve wouldn't betray me, even with his harsh words. It would have been better if he had talked to me about it. Maybe there could have been a better way to help his mother without causing this argument. Did he think I'd say no, or did he not trust me? Instead of our marriage making us closer, it felt like we were growing apart. Steve didn't see anything wrong with using the money without asking. The next day, he acted like nothing happened and went to work after breakfast. I didn't say more because I didn't want another fight, but I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. Meanwhile, the new house was finally done. Despite the business, the construction company was really helpful, and I managed to build a beautiful house. I asked my dad to pack some of his things, but I didn't want him to strain himself, so I hired movers to handle it all for him. With just 2 weeks left until moving day, I was filled with joy thinking about how I could do something special for my dad in the house I had built. On the day we planned to help my dad unpack in the new house, along with Steve, I tried to talk about the arrangements, but then Steve said something shocking. Hey, that house isn't for your dad. It's going to be for my mom. I have the right to decide who lives in the house I helped build, so it's going to be my mom, he said firmly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. In a panic, I replied, I built that house. It's for my dad. There's no way you, with your part-time job, could have built it. It's my money that paid for it, so don't act so entitled. It seems like he genuinely believed that it was his money that built the house. When we talked about building it before, he seemed fine with the idea. But now it looks like he planned from the start to make it for his mother, not my dad. That's really unfair. Now I have to prove that I used my own money to build it. I had no choice but to tell him about the rental income I'd kept hidden until now. I decided to come clean about it. You're making up stories just because you want the house for yourself. If you're going to lie, at least make it believable, he scoffed. He didn't believe me at all and stormed off somewhere. I was at a loss, but I had to make him understand. While waiting for him to return, he came back looking incredibly angry and then said, You tried to trick me, saying you built that house. You're a liar. That house is mine because I helped build it. You need to leave, even if we break up. I don't think you can survive on your part-time salary. I was speechless at the sudden turn of events. That house was built with my hard work, and being told to leave so abruptly was too much. Sign this and get out tonight, he laughed as he slammed divorce papers on the table and headed to his room. His part was already filled out. After constantly putting me down, presenting the divorce papers like that was the lowest he could go. He must have done this awful thing to make me feel hopeless. Maybe he thought bringing up divorce would make me cave in and let his mother live in the house. But little did he know, I had enough money to live on my own without him. This was the final straw for me. I signed the papers and submitted them, then quickly packed my bags and left for my dad's house. My dad was surprised to see me arriving with so much luggage all of a sudden, but he warmly welcomed me in. After I explained everything that had happened, he patted my back and said, You've been through a lot. You can stay with me in the new house. That would make me happy. Moving day came and everything went smoothly because I was there. We successfully moved in without any issues. I found it a bit strange that my ex-husband hadn't reached out after causing such a scene, claiming the house was his. But I tried not to worry about it because I didn't want to think about someone I was divorced from. A few days after settling into our new home with my father, something unbelievable happened. There was a commotion outside, and when I looked out the window, I saw a big moving truck parked outside, claiming they were moving into our house. I rushed outside to talk to the movers and figure out what was going on. It turned out that the customer was actually my ex-husband, and he was planning to move in with his mother. They wanted to forcefully take over the house where my father and I were already living. Since we were divorced, he was basically a stranger to me now, and it would be a big problem if they just showed up like that. I felt a chilling kind of fear about my ex-husband's aggressive intentions. I explained the situation to the confused movers and asked them to stop their work. Then I talked to my father and quickly called the police. When I told the police what was happening, they confirmed that the house was my property. Since my ex-husband and I were divorced, he had no right to live there, and entering against my will could be considered trespassing. Soon, my ex-husband and his mother arrived. When they saw the police, they started to panic. It finally dawned on him that I was the one who built the house. But with his mother freaking out beside him and the police bombarding him with questions, he lost his cool and yelled, "What's going on? Why can't I live in this house?" Looking at him, I realized I was done dealing with such a person. But to protect my father and myself, I handed over the final piece of evidence to the police. Although the situation calmed down thanks to their intervention, I later heard that my ex-husband faced serious consequences. He was so serious about living in the house that he canceled his apartment lease and even sold his mother's house, leaving him with no place to go. With a breach of contract fee demanded by the movers and a truckload of belongings, he found himself stranded on the street with his mother. The final piece of evidence I gave to the police was footage of the verbal abuse, essentially domestic violence, that my ex-husband subjected me to. Unable to endure his abusive language any longer, I had installed surveillance cameras to record everything. The footage showed me diligently doing housework while he constantly spewed unreasonable abuse. Using this evidence, I managed to further corner him. I hired a lawyer and sued him, eventually extracting a settlement. The expenses from the moving chaos and the settlement depleted the money he got from selling his mother's house and his own savings. Now he and his mother are reportedly living in a rundown apartment. Word of this spread quickly at his workplace. Realizing there was something wrong with his character, his colleagues distanced themselves, and now he is isolated and frowned upon by everyone at the company. As for me, I finally got to adopt a cat. My father's back has completely healed, and we're discussing taking a trip with the cat. I also used the settlement money to open a shop dealing with cat goods. It was challenging at first, and there were failures, but gradually customers increased and the business is thriving. Every day is peaceful and truly enjoyable. I never thought that the action I took for my father's sake would lead to my own happiness. I truly feel that it was the right decision. Recently, there has been a happy development. A man who always comes to my shop and chats pleasantly has been particularly kind to both people and cats. We've made plans to go for a drive together. I'm going to live my life freely and enjoyably. I'm excited about the new happiness that's about to begin.